Today we're going to be going over the auctions for the first week of December, ending anywhere on Friday the 6th all the way through Sunday the 8th. Before we get started, of course, I just wanted to remind everybody that we do have a Discord server now where we're just kind of have a lot of open conversation. I'll be popping in there from time to time, but I kind of wanted to just create a community that kind of is self-helping in a way as well. Definitely check it out. We'll have the link in the description. Let's get started with this Pastel Clown Het Ultramel Girl. This is a pretty good price for one that's ending sometime the day you're watching this. Right now it's $205. It will have that last minute rush, so to speak, right? But at $205 with just 10 bids, that's pretty darn good. And one thing I'm going to call your attention to is the size of this girl. At nearly 1,000 grams, this is getting close. Most of the work has been done for you in getting this girl to breed. And of course, what does this do? This gives you the opportunity to get Ultramel clowns. It'd be very nice. And it's also proof in this girl right here that Pastel is not a bad gene. It just doesn't need to be in everything. This works pretty nice, honestly, in this clown. This is just a clown girl, and somehow she's held it pretty good, and I think it would look great in the combo from what I'm seeing here. Obviously, she still has a little bit more growing to do before she gets the size, but she's still nice and bright. I'm surprised there's not something else at work, quite frankly, because Pastel clowns usually brown up a little bit more than this, no doubt, but still a very nice girl. And of course, you get yourself a male that's maybe an Ultramel Het Clown. Just to save yourself a little bit of money, you can start hitting that feasibly. You got 1 in 4 odds to in fact hit that with that particular combo. With that being said, maybe you just go all out and start making them yourself and increase your odds and get your male to be an Ultramel clown. Or invest in a boy that's an Ultramel Het Clown and pump him full of awesome genetics like Blackhead and kind of go from there. That would be really cool. Blackhead, Spot-Nose, Leopard, there's a whole bunch of different directions. Of course, I pretty much described a Batman with an extra gene or so in there, I think. An Ultramel Clown, Blackhead, a Batman, that would be really cool. I guess that's what I'm saying is, make it something special as well. Especially if you're gonna go the Ultramel Clown or Het Clown route. You might as well have him pumped full of some genetics that can get you going in a good direction. So this would be a really nice girl. I'm surprised she's not going for a little bit more already. I do think, of course, it will go up even more. And besides what I haven't mentioned, she's for free shipping. So that's really nice. Having a free shipping girl at this cost, that's a steal right now. It's an absolute fleecing. We'll see what it ends up at, but very good opportunity here. Sticking with Ultramel and the same breeder, would be this Ultramel Hypo Possible Het Caramel. This girl is very close to being breeding. And by very close, I mean just about 250 grams away. I mean, some people would argue you could already start pairing her with the anticipation that she'll pack on some of those egg-laying pounds, right? But whether you do that or not, I don't. I wait till 15 myself, but I don't judge people because they have had it work, so can't argue with people's success. So with that said, I have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that would be the Possible Het Caramel. I don't know when the experiment was done, but at one point people have tried to combine Ultramel and Caramel. They've done the same thing with my favorite gene, the Monarch, and the attempt was to see if everything was allelic. And while they are kind of in the same vein of being a T plus albinism, they are not allelic, so they're not related in that regard anyway. And they each kind of do their own thing anyways. Caramel, however, is the one that you don't hear about a lot, and there's a few different reasons for that. It's said that it is prone to kinking. I have a visual caramel pied here, and I have bred her, and I've never seen kinking, not once. Others maybe have claimed they have, but kinking is just kind of a natural thing that can happen anyways. We actually just produced a kink snake from a clutch that shouldn't have had that happen. It just kind of happens sometimes. But the subfertility is the other thing, and I can personally attest to you, subfertility is a thing. I have personally found that it's like 50-50. Like my girl will either lay pretty much mostly good eggs, some slugs, or she'll just completely slug out. And I don't try to produce the caramel. I do not. In fact, I'm actually moving on from her. But they are very, very pretty. They have a very rich, deep coloring, especially in the pies. This girl here is gorgeous that I have. So whether you wanted to work that or not would, for one, be reliant on if she is Het Caramel. So you need to prove that out first, but this is an Ultramel Hypo, so let's talk about that specifically. The Ultramel Hypo is kind of the direction you want to go, and again, this girl is really inexpensive with about the same exact time left on her. So if you want to start working some cool Ultramels, this would be a nice one to do that with. Both of these girls, quite frankly. I'm very happy to see Hypo making a sort of resurgence. For a long time, I think people very much overlooked Hypo. maybe even honestly look down on it. It kind of just makes them look like they're in shed, is what I thought. But when you see them, they don't look like they're in shed. They glow. They are very, very bright animals. There's a very big difference from when they're in shed. Like, I kind of understand why people thought that way at first glance, but when you see them in combos, that is not the case. They absolutely like exude light. So this one would be a nice pickup. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, the caramel gene in its heterozygous form, if this ended up being het, has no issue. It's the visual females that are subfertile that can sometimes lay some slugs. The het does nothing whatsoever. So rest assured, if you just wanted to ignore the het, you can do so. This would be a nice pickup, quite frankly, with or without that caramel in mind. And guess what? Yes, yet another one, a cinnamon Enchi Yellowbelly Ultramel. And you can kind of see a little bit of a difference here where we're starting to get something more of a little tangy type color and come in. And that is most certainly thanks to these cinnamon, Enchi, and Yellowbelly genes working their magic. The big thing here is that this girl is 2 size already. She is ready to breed, and yet she has never been bred. Of the 3 from Red Mountain Herpetoculture that are posted, this is the one that has the most interest, which doesn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form, considering it's pretty much ready to go too. But if you want to work Ultramel projects, this would be great to do. You just want to wait for her to shed. That's what I would do before pairing her to determine if she is het clown, if that's the route you were going to go. Send in a shed test. It's super worth it. I mean, guarantee you. And find out if she's het clown. You got a good odds of it. It's at the 66% het. And if she proves out, then again, you're starting to look for Ultramel clowns now. So a few different routes you could go here. The other thing would be maybe getting them all and just having a bigger box shipped to you, right? That would be pretty nice too. And if you're anywhere near me, you might be waiting a little bit to have shipping anyways, just because of the weather and of course holiday shipping as well. Now we're going to talk about lace, and specifically we're going to start off with this pastel lace Desert Ghost Clown. Now, not surprisingly, this girl here has a reserve price. This is going to be a very bright animal as it ages. It's going to stay very similar to this. Like I said, there is a reserve, so we don't know what that is. Usually what I recommend doing is bidding up to where you're comfortable. So let's just say you're comfortable with 900. So don't just bid 900, because if it was 800, you're going to feel pretty sad. And you find that out and bid up in 25s, something like that, until that reserve price drops. And then stop, of course, and only bid when you're being outbid. The good thing is if the reserve price does not end where your bottom dollar ends, well, that's okay, because then either someone else will kind of pick up the baton and run, or the auction will end and there will be no winner because it will be null and void if the reserve price is not beat. So very bright, beautiful girl. Lace clowns are amazing. Gonna move on and talk about this lace leopard clown, and that's also possibly Yellowbelly. This one here has no reserve, but it is of course not as close to the auction window as the previous one. But even here you can kind of see how much it cleans it up, how much it emboldens the black stripe, the dorsal stripe that goes along the back of this leopard clown. It's very nice, and the combos that lace work with are so good. And lace is a gene that by itself, it's very subtle. But the cool thing about these enhancing genetics is just how awesome they are when they start getting put with things, and then how quickly you can see the big difference with and without. Everybody go take Yellowbelly out of the Pompeii and tell me the difference. I know Yellowbelly is not the genetic that we're talking about here, but it's very similar with lace. It's a key ingredient to making things just pop. It's very, very beautiful. And on that, the cheapest one of the group, just because it has the longest amount of time left, would be this Lace Enchi Yellowbelly Het Clown. This one actually has a good amount of size to it too. Right now, just one bid, $5, and it is a Lace Enchi Yellowbelly Het Clown. So you don't have a visual clown here, but that means the price will be a little bit lower. It could be a good consolation prize, not that there's anything wrong with this girl in any way, shape, or form, for someone who misses out maybe on the first two that we just showed. And again, it will probably go for a bit cheaper because of the fact that it isn't a visual clown, it is a het clown. That just kind of makes sense, right? There's a little bit more work that has to be gone into it. You're not guaranteed to get clowns, but that comes with the bonus of it being probably cheaper than the other two. So this could be a good one to go for so that you can start working that lace gene in there. And we already just mentioned the Yellowbelly. Having Yellowbelly in something is just always really good. Enchi depends on the route you're going. If you want to work those nice, beautiful, bright snakes with those really nice oranges, it would be a very good one to get. In fact, quite frankly, with lace, it is a very good one to get. Lace keeps the animal more bright, more clean, and ages it quite well on top of everything. So now I want to kind of go over some of the stuff you can make with some of these laces that we talked about. So here's a white lace Yellowbelly clown. And what white lace is it's the super copy. It's 2 copies of the lace. And just look at the stark white belly, the beautiful sides that you're getting here. And I know I've shown this video off quite often, but this is about one of the most bright and beautiful snakes I think I've ever seen. And that would be this Cypress Yellowbelly Spot Nose Russo lace clown. And Russo and Yellowbelly, very subtle genes along with that lace. These 3 girls right here would be a definite boost to anyone's collection, no matter who they are. Moving right along to, I think, what might be our first boy of the day would be this super Enchi Freeway Het Pied. And what that basically means is this a super Mardi Gras, I guess, because an Enchi Freeway is what you kind of nickname a Mardi Gras. But of course, this also having super Enchi makes it even more insane. I love how dark this animal is near the head, and then just how crazy it gets as it goes down. How bright and dark at the exact same time that he is. The fact that he's Het Pied just makes it even more beneficial because, you know, while again we prefer to have our males have visuals in them, he would probably not be for sale if he was a visual. But there's plenty of pied girls out there these days that you can pick up on the down low for a little bit cheaper. And quite frankly, why not just make a show of it and grow out a girl as well that's got some really nice things that you can put to him. You know, obviously wanting to probably stay in that Freeway line, so staying with the asphalt would be very nice, because you don't want to do the ivory in your female, because then you're going to get all white ivories. And while those are very nice in a combo like this, it could be potentially covering up some really powerful things. So that would be my recommendation. If you do go with this boy and you want to recreate the Freeway, do it with an asphalt girl, whether she's proven or you're growing her out. Just probably that's the best way to do it. You could do it with ivory, and you could still recreate the Freeway that way, but when you get the super ivory, you're gonna be probably like, oh, okay. Just a really nice looking boy here though, regardless of how you slice it. Here's not one you see every day, and that would be this super scaleless 66% Het Pied boy here. There is a reserve price on this, and as the description says, please be aware that the scaleless ball pythons require a little bit extra care in higher humidity and different kinds of substrate. You usually don't want something that can be very coarse or cut them like cypress mulch. I've heard using, I think it's called cocoa noir. I use it personally for our tortoises here to create kind of a soily substance, mixing with other things, but sometimes I've heard just using the fine cocoa, not the cocoa husk, but the fine cocoa is the best way to go about doing this. So other than the scaleless, ideally you would think that this would just look like a normal, right? But for whatever reason, when you get the scaleless, the super scaleless head or micro scale, however you want to call it, it really changes up the pattern. I mean, there's so much to see and look at, and they look so weird and different. And trust me, they feel weird and different too. If you ever get your chance to hold one, I would. So, and you might look at its belly and think like, oh my God, something's wrong with this, right? Again, it's just something that goes with the animal. Everything you see here, the folds in the skin, it looks like a toy, doesn't it? It looks like one of them stuffed toys, but this is a real animal. They are awesome. I would be working this project if I knew I could give it the care. And I don't get me wrong, I know I could give it the care, but I don't want to, because it's extra work and I've got a lot of work here. You should treat it almost like a different species. They need help with that shed for them to thrive. If you were going to work this line, if you wanted to do it as a breeder, you would most certainly want to send the shed test to RGI to see if it's Het Pied, because this is the sort of stuff you can make. And you can even see how it looks different from a regular pied. This is just a pied super scaleless, or just scaleless, and it looks like a Renaissance painting. Every single morph, I wish I could see it, but there's not a lot of people who work these, and it's probably for the best, just because I think people buy these and they expect them to be just ball pythons, and they are, obviously, as a species, but their care is different. So while I think that you can appreciate these, and if you ever get the opportunity to hold one or something like that, take it, because it's cool and it's an experience like no other. But I caution you to really do some inward deep diving if you really want this, and to really pour over quite a bit of research and talk to people who keep them before you do it, so that you are best prepared to give it the life that it deserves. All right, back into a girl here would be this Ghi Bongo Het Clown. I don't think this will go for a whole bunch, if I had to be honest with you, and Bongo is heavily underrated in my opinion. It's kind of similar to GHI, except that it changes up the pattern a little bit. GHI obviously is a darkening and shadowing type gene, whereas Bongo does create the granulation, no doubt, but you can kind of see both kind of influencing each other here, and how you're getting the different patterns here kind of squished up and shrunken here and completely just cored out with this granulation. Very, very nice. The fact that she is Het Clown is just chef's kiss to me, because I think this is a really good hidden deal. If you are on a budget and this girl is still sitting around here for cheaper and come closer to the end of the auction, I highly recommend snagging her up if you are looking to do something on a budget but yet still make a big time impact, because Bongo is a really good gene. I'll never understand why genes just sometimes get overlooked. Sometimes I think that it's very much a marketing thing. Sometimes they're around for so long and then somebody creates something amazing and then they're like, oh, I gotta get into this. Oh, and then they find out how awesome it was with other things all along anyway. But this is a really nice girl. If I wasn't full up and I was just getting started, I'd be all over this. Next up would be a pair of snakes from Get Morph BP, and that would be this 1-to-1 Enchi Freeway 66% Het Clown. So the male is just a Freeway, 66% Het Clown. The female is also Enchi. Obviously, you're working the Mardi Gras line right there. You could grow these up and pair them together. Of course, in that result, it would be kind of unique. Obviously, Enchi would be coming along for the ride 50% of the time. Both animals would need to be proved out as Het Clown, so I would certainly send a shed test on both of them, because you might want to go a different route if, say, the female proves out and the male doesn't. Because hitting a Clown Freeway, those are very nice. Now, the Freeway itself is going to be very interesting, because Yellowbelly and Asphalt work together in an allelic combo, almost like a super, but different. So always one copy of either Asphalt or Yellowbelly will pass down. So you are guaranteed every single pairing to either get Ivories, which is an all-white snake and is the super Yellowbelly, or you're going to get super Asphalts, which are very, very nice. Honestly, I don't mind them at all. Or you are going to hit the Freeway again. You can kind of see here, we took the Enchi out for simplicity. Obviously, 50% of the time, you're also going to be having Enchi along for the ride, but you're 25% of the time going to get a super Yellowbelly or the Ivory, 25% of the time going to get a super Asphalt, or 50% of the time, you're going to recreate that Freeway. So it's not a bad way to go, except for if you're trying to go for the Clowns. 25% of the snakes you get might be Clown, but would be covered up possibly by the Ivory, and that's not ideal. Now, Ivory does bleed through a lot. It's not just a pure all-white snake, quite frankly, like the bells and whatnot. So sometimes you can sneak some pattern through, but it's kind of where the road ends in terms of working the project, for the most part anyways. So while these two are great, you gotta kind of ask yourself, is the 75% that you're gonna be hitting awesomeness on outweigh the very nice Ivories that you'll be making? Moving right into one of my favorites, and Frameshift has been on this list already, and there's quite a few from Frameshift up there. We have purchased from Frameshift in the past, and I got a Pixel from Frameshift. Pixel is a very cool gene. It's also a granulation type gene, except that unlike many granulation type genes that I see end up kind of darkening any animal, it really does not. And while I love the darkening type genes, sometimes that can kind of lead you in a certain direction, so it's nice to be able to move that into a multifaceted direction. So Pixel is really cool in terms of pixelation. It's one of the higher ones up there. You can kind of see here just the Pixel Black Pastel Red Stripe girl here. Great animal to start working some projects into. I think Pixel and Clown are going to be a really nice one together. Of course, wow, that's super original, right? Clown. I mean, but it's nice. I want to make cool things that I like, and I'm going to do that. So, of course, I still kind of want to try to do original type things, and I plan to. But with that said, you kind of go where you think the most beautiful things are going to be created. And all of these genes, I think, would look wonderful in a Clown. That's immediately where I would take it, is putting some sort of Clown boy to this. Maybe even take a stab at Glory and put a spot-nosed Yellowbelly Clown to it. Maybe with some extra stuff in there, and maybe eventually down the line you get a Pixel with the proper ingredients you need to make the Pixel Pompeii. That'd be pretty neat, right? Just some thoughts, but a really very nice girl. I wouldn't be surprised to see this jumping up there in price a bit. So I really like Pixel. I'm happy to be in the project myself. But we're not done talking about it, because there is yet another one here, also from Frameshift Reptiles. This would be this Pixel Yellowbelly. They both have about the exact same time. Of course, this Yellowbelly girl here has a few less genetics in her, so I suspect she'll go for a little bit less. However, Yellowbelly is very nice, and you can kind of see what it does in terms of brightening it up. You kind of see what I was saying earlier, that Pixel doesn't necessarily always have to create a dark animal, although it does still seem to accentuate the blacks in here because they are very nice jet black. The Yellowbelly does what it does best, and Pixel is kind of running through there and creating this granulation in the animal. Very beautiful animal. Apparently there's one that I missed for a lace, and this would be a boy. This leopard lace Yellowbelly clown, again from Frameshift Reptiles. Very, very, very nice animal. Obviously I already said what I needed to say about lace earlier, but I will add that if you wanted to work lace into your combinations quicker, doing it with a male is very nice, considering that it is an incomplete dominant. It will pass on 50% of the time. It's not like clown where you need to breed it to a het clown or clown to produce the results or to produce the visual example. A lace is going to be present in 50% of the breedings, barring any sort of chance or anything like that. So another ideal one there. And also something else I noticed, Frameshift is offering free shipping on all of these auctions right now, so that is something great to take advantage of, especially if you're going to get multiples from them. Just get them all shipped together, and of course, while you're not technically saving on shipping anymore, you're definitely saving on headaches of having to go pick them up from the FedEx hub. Taking a quick break from ball pythons, I wanted to talk about a few hognoses, and there's actually a fair amount of hognose auctions up. Never as much as ball pythons, but for the first time in a little while, there are 2 pages of hognose auctions. But there's some really good stuff up there, and in fact, I think almost exclusively, we're going to be talking a lot about today are adult breeders. This is not something you see very often. Most people do not sell adult ready to breed hognoses. They're a pretty hot animal right now, so people just prefer to keep their females, considering that they lay so many eggs too. A female will lay quite a bit more, and up to 2 or 3 times a year even. So this female here is an extreme red albino. Extreme red is a polygenic trait. It just kind of just shows off a rusty type red kind of coming through. And of course, albino is what brings in the red eyes and those orangish type reds to begin with. So very nice, beautiful animal. She's ready to breed now. Not a proven breeder, but ready to breed. So if you wanted to start creating just very nice albinos, because extreme red being in there as well is going to set you apart from others and make them even nicer. You compare this to a regular albino and you see the difference. They are definitely more red than they are orange, like the albinos are. Another one here would be if you want to work the Axanthic line. And Axanthic is still somewhat similar to what they look like with ball pythons. Definitely stripping some of them colors away and creating more of a grayish and blackish type animal. But this female is again also ready to breed. So a nice big girl, if you wanted to start working the Axanthic lines, this would be a good one to do. Next up, looking at, again, from Frameshift Reptiles, this girl here is a super Arctic, which is just 2 copies of the Arctic gene, and it works exactly like that would work with a ball python. Not the gene itself, because there's nothing called that, of course, but how a super would work. You're always going to get 1 copy of the Arctic gene when she breeds, and you can see how beautiful and awesome they look. Kind of a cookies and cream type look, this kind of shaded black and this very nice white underneath of it. So, like I said, I always call them kind of a cookies and cream type snake. So this would be a really nice, beautiful girl to pick up if that's kind of what you wanted to work. I would not say that hognoses are like ball pythons, that they're dominated, so to speak, by recessives, but in general, recessives do, of course, hold value more because they are harder to make. But it's not that sort of level of domination that ball pythons are at, where it seems to be a very much recessive game right now. Moving into this albino Anaconda, or Conda for short, extreme red as well. So another nice extreme red. The Conda kind of creates and reduces the pattern a bit, more spots. There's even a super form of that, which actually ironically strips all of the pattern off of the snake, except right there in the head. If this was a Conda, this would all be this kind of sherbetish type white, and you just have this head pattern, including the wings on the head. They stay too. It's very unique how that happens. But again, the extreme red just makes it stand out. It's just very, very, very beautiful. So another really good pickup for a girl if you wanted to work albinos, which is probably my favorite right now of all of them. I know albino might seem kind of vanilla for some people, but I don't care. It's so beautiful in hognoses. I love it. And finishing off the hognoses would be this female Snow. And Snow is a combination of 2 recessives, and that would be albino and Axanthic, which we talked about these earlier. And you can kind of see this is a pink snake. And it is awesome. I've seen some that look almost pure white and with just a hint of pink, and then I've seen ones like this which have like this pinkish look to it. And in typical hognose form, it is certainly showing off to you. It was probably very hungry in this picture. I love hognoses for how derpy they are. I mean, this picture shows it off perfectly, but they are gorgeous. This would be another really powerful breeder to pick up if you want to start working that project, and quite frankly, just a beautiful animal. All right, moving right back into the ball pythons would be this proven breeder super banana. No recessives or anything here, but when you're guaranteed to make bananas all the time, that might not really matter. Super bananas are usually something I don't care to make, but as a breeder, this is a pretty cool one because you're literally always going to get bananas. And being, of course, in a female or how the supers work in general, you're gonna have more of a normal type look of clutch. So you're gonna have males and females. From Petrogenetics, another breeder we have purchased from online and had wonderful and great experiences from. This girl here has bred earlier this year, so she's probably ready to start breeding. Bananas sell. They will always sell. And I can see this one going for a very favorable price. You're gonna be able to get her and basically start her off right away. She'll be ready to pair and start creating your animals. Like it says in the description down there, you'd be able to make whatever you pay on this back in one clutch. They're super cool. They're one of the most influential morphs in my opinion too. And we made a whole video on that actually too. And certainly talked about them quite a bit. Another one here from Petrogenetics would be this high intensity Orange Dream Yellowbelly Banana Pied. More banana, but you can kind of see what it does in a bunch of other cool combos. And wow, does it do some cool stuff here. I love what Yellowbelly does to pied, how it just blows up and pixelates everything here. But I don't know if I've seen one that's just this nuts. But the Orange Dream and the Yellowbelly and the banana just kind of combine to create one of the coolest looking pieds I think I've seen. This might end up being one of our thumbnails. I don't know. We'll see. I always like animals like this, and you can see other people do too. This one has some interest in it. It'll still be very worth it if this is the sort of route you want to go. A high intensity Orange Dream is not something to be overlooked either. It is definitely something I would say is a polygenic type trait. If it doesn't end up proving to be its own gene, almost like an allelic form, like Barnhart Black Pastel ended up proving out. If you want to work some of the pied projects, this is a way to do it and stand out. No doubt about it, because stuff like this will always get people's attention, and that is how you make a big time impact in whatever way you want to. He is absolutely a beautiful powerhouse boy. And yet again, from Petrogenetics would be this Orange Dream Sunset. It might be Orange Dream. Sometimes, of course, with Sunset, it can be difficult to say. I would definitely say it would be. It just kind of has a little bit of an extra kick to it, but it's guaranteed to be a Sunset, and it's a female, and there's no reserve on it right now. This is not going to be a cheaper auction, but I still say, obviously, with it being on auction, the favor is yours as the buyer. Should you attempt to go buy a female Sunset, even without the Orange Dream, outside of trying to get it on the auction here, you will pay more. So if you are in the market for a female Sunset, you can't do much better, I'd say. Talking about one of my favorite genes now, it would be this Blackhead double het lav pied. So it's a het dreamsicle, basically. And she's proven. So she's basically ready to go. It looks like it was originally produced by Showcase Serpents, which is a very quality breeder. She laid in 2022 and 3, but she took 2024 off. So not only is she ready for this next year, she's rested up. So sometimes it is good to give your girl a year off. You know, every single year can be a little taxing on the body. So it's always good to maybe give them every 3rd or 4th year. But sometimes they'll just take it whether you want it or not. But she is gorgeous. I love how Blackhead looks. And look at this. This is an adult. That's how gorgeous it is. And everybody says Blackhead is a dark gene. And it is, but it works well with the light genes. That's what I love so much about it. It doesn't overpower and take over when a light gene is introduced. It says, let's work together. It says, I want to create the most contrasting things possible. And that's what Blackhead excels at. It's why I love it. It's not because it's a dark gene. It's because it is dark and it works well as a contrasting gene with light genes. In fact, my brightest snake here is a Blackhead. It's a Blackhead Lavender that's het pied, and she happens to also be Enchi. You could skip that whole rigmarole of growing them up and pick up this girl and start making Blackhead dreamsicles right away, which again are about the brightest snakes you can make. So can't recommend it enough. I feel like she might go for a really good price too. Honestly, I'm gonna keep an eye on this one. because if she's hanging around, I might go for it. Here's my placeholder bid. So definitely bid on this one with confidence. This is one I would be paying a lot of attention to if I were you. All right, into our final 5 here. Starting off from Aura would be this Pastel Leopard Clown, 100% Het Sunset boy. Very, very nice. And let's face it, if you have a sunset clown, a visual, you're gonna pay a whole heck of a lot more. Normally, again, I always say your males, I'd like to be the visuals, but in this case, let's face it, this would not be on auction if that's the case. Having Leopard in there is very, very nice. Kind of gives you a little more leeway in projects you wanted to do. Maybe you make the Batman sunset, I get a sunset female that is spot nose and het clown. You know, and if you want to save a little bit of money, just make it double het, sure. You reduce your odds, but you still have a little bit of a leeway there because you do have a visual clown here. And you can always test the babies. Another one here from Aura Reptiles would be this Pastel Clown, 100% Het Sunset. So missing the leopard gene there, but you'd think it would be cheaper because of that, but it's not. That's kind of interesting, but I suspect in the end that will swing back in favor of this one being the more expensive one. But just kind of another example of you being able to work this genetic for a much cheaper price than what you would normally pay. For our second to last would be this pair, actually, of chocolate Het Tri Stripes from Mark Pestros Reptiles. So it's a male and a female. So the male is a chocolate Het Tri Stripe, and the female is a Het Tri Stripe. So you can make chocolate Tri Stripes. So when this does get to size, you would have a 1 in 4 chance. And considering that the average amount of eggs is 6, you're down to probably hit 1 to 2 Tri Stripes. And having chocolate in there is even more of a boon. And if you've never seen a Tri Stripe, well, feast your eyes on this. It has the biggest, boldest stripe of them all. It's named that way because of its big, bold stripe. And then it has a smaller stripe that goes along the side on each side. Near the bottom is the pattern just kind of, like I said, flattens out and just stretches across it. It almost makes you think that it's inverted where the darker side is the pattern, but it just kind of just stretches and just occasionally just shoots down, almost like an aqueduct or something like that. Very cool and beautiful animal. I really wish more people would work this. I'm excited to see kind of what people can do with this. It's very powerful in terms of what it does to the pattern. So I don't know what else in terms of genetics you can do to change that. I'm sure there is something. It's not as powerful or crazy as something, say, like Monsoon, but color I think is the way to go here. Similar to Monsoon, just I think there can be some leeway with the pattern if I had to guess. Chocolate would be a very good one there because it's a darkening type gene. It's very cool. So I think this little group here would be a very nice addition. If you want to start working Tri Stripes, I don't suspect them going for a whole heck of a lot. In 3 years you could be creating something very special. And for our last one is something I think is very cool. It has a high start price, but sometimes I appreciate that because rather than set a reserve price that you don't know what it's going to be, you have your reserve price right off the bat. That's what you know it is. But he is this Stranger Hurricane Clown, and this is a powerhouse right here. Absolutely insane. Look at the coloring. Look at the dark shading colors. It's so much beauty, yet so much just darkness and destruction here. I can't get over like this. These perfect little dots. The shadowing in here. It's an actual work of Gothic art. It is insane. The fact that it is so dark, but yet near the head just lightens up with this beautiful cinnamony-like look. I can't get over how beautiful this animal is. I'm very impressed, and I'm very excited to be working in the Stranger Clowns now. Seeing something like this just makes me even more excited to get it combined with other things. So I know a lot of people might not be in on it at $2,000, but I definitely think that he is worth it. He is a powerful, powerful boy that will put you in a totally new league. And that'll do it for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you got anything on the auctions, whether it be from our last video or from this video, please let us know in the comments below. I always like hearing about it. And if you wanted to see some of the genetics that we were talking about today, we reviewed quite a few of them in the video right here and here.